want to share with you a strange story. It's strange in many ways. Now, this caught my eye. Robert George, who is a law professor, he had the following comment on Twitter. It caught my eye. So here's how he distills this story that is unraveling in a little town of Heath, Ohio. It's about half an hour east of Columbus, Ohio. So his comment on Twitter is, Ohio woman takes abortion pills. They cause labor, but fail to kill the baby, who's born alive at 28 weeks. Woman and boyfriend provide no care, seek no medical help. The child dies. Police find the child's corpse in a shoebox. The couple is prosecuted for manslaughter. The question for Democratic candidates, he asks, is, should they be prosecuted for manslaughter? And he has a follow-up question. He says, it's a true story. Now, let's imagine that when the child emerged alive from the mother's womb, the couple simply fed him another one of the pills to finish him off. Now, that's a hypothetical. They didn't do that. They just, when the baby emerged alive, they just simply abandoned it, her, him, baby. It's not an it, but you know what I mean. So Robert George says, imagine that when the child emerged alive, the couple simply fed him another one of the pills to finish him off. Is killing the child with the pills in the womb perfectly okay, but killing the same child outside the womb at the same age, a heinous crime? Now, you know what I'm going to say in response to that. You know that I'm going to say that both scenarios are heinous. Both scenarios involve the intentional taking of the innocent life, aka murder. So if you are pro-abortion, if you don't like that term, I'm sorry. If you're pro-choice, because I realize sometimes you just have to candy coat certain things, so they just don't taste right if you take them without the candy coating. So for those who prefer the phraseology pro-choice, or whatever the popular phraseology is at any given time, how do you deal with that? How do you answer that question? If it's legal, and for those who support abortion rights, and I'll put the word rights in quotation marks, because after all, you and I both know deep down inside that nobody has the right to take the life of an innocent person. But that's just a clump of cells. Maybe, Cyrus, we should get the This Is a Baby video ready and play that in a second. That's just a clump. No, it's a baby. It's a baby. But it doesn't look like a baby when it's 1 month. Yeah, that's true. That's what human beings look like at that stage of life. Well, what about it when it's only one cell? What about when it's just a zygote, just a blob of two? Yeah, that's what human beings look like at that stage of development. You look the way you look at your age right now, because that's the way human beings look like. That's the way human beings look like. That's the way human beings look at that given stage of development. So that argument doesn't wash either. But I just want to restate what Robert George is saying here. So if the hypothetical were that rather than this couple just leaving this child to die without any assistance, no shelter, no food, nothing, and the baby dies, then they stick his body in a shoebox. Thankfully, they were caught. But what if instead they had just simply fed another one of these abortion pills to the baby, and the baby dies? So that's the question. If it's A-okay to kill the baby in the womb with that pill going into the mother's body to start labor pains and have the baby die in an abortion, is it okay to do the same thing to the same baby at the same age outside the womb? Simple question. Now, I realize we've had a bunch of people holding online, and I want to get to their phone calls. So you're necessarily going to hear other topics coming up when we go to these phone calls. But this is open for you to call in if you'd like to opine on this issue. And I would especially love to hear from you if you're fine with abortion, if you think it's okay. Whether you're at the safe, legal, and rare end of the spectrum, or you're at the other end of the spectrum where it's abortion on demand without apologies. You see people screaming that all the time as well. I'd particularly be interested in your views on this issue. Again, I'll just restate it so everybody knows what we're talking about here. An Ohio couple, a woman and her boyfriend, they conceive a child. She was in her third trimester, so not quite 30 weeks pregnant. She would have given birth if she had gone full term in another 8 to 10 weeks. And she took an abortion pill. Misoprostol is the specific drug. She took 12 of these tablets, and she had to go to Indiana to get them. So this drug, it induces labor and terminates the pregnancy. And that's what they thought was happening, and the baby turns out to be born alive. So they just ignore it. They don't feed this child. They don't clothe the child. They don't do anything, and the child dies, as anybody would die. And now they're being sued for manslaughter. And the question is, well, if the abortion argument is correct, and they're well within their rights to kill that same child at the same age. I mean, this is, moments apart. The baby's being aborted here and now, not a month earlier or anything like that. Here and now, this child is being put to death, or at least ostensibly so, because it didn't work in this case. But the theory is that you are not doing anything illegal or immoral in the eyes of some people by putting this clump of cells to death with this kind of medicine. And yet the child comes out alive, and now they're being charged with manslaughter because they didn't do anything to save the child's life. How does that work? In what universe does that make any sense? You see where I'm going with this, don't you? Let's play the "This Is a Baby" bit that we came up with a couple of weeks ago. Actually, we did it to coincide with the March for Life in Washington, D.C., and the West Coast Walk for Life and One Life LA and all the different walks that took place. This was our contribution to the cause. This is a baby. Some people might try to tell you that it's a clump of cells. They might scream, "Clump of cells, clump of cells, clump of cells," over and over and over again. They might put "clump of cells" in all caps. You might even start to believe that this is a clump of cells, but it's not. This is a baby. If you want to see that video, you'll find it on the show Twitter feed at PMadrid Show. It's YouTube enabled, so you can put it anywhere you want. I recommend that you share it with people. Let's go to Monica now, listening in Madison, Wisconsin. Hello, Monica. Welcome.
Hi. Thank you so much for taking my call. So I'm not pro-choice. Life is life is life. But I take issue with Robert George's comment simply because it's a little off on its science. And we want to be up on our science. They accuse us of not being on the side of science. We want to be up on our science. Typically, the abortion pill is taken for early stage or early term abortions, and other methods are used for later abortions. So if you're talking about a baby that could survive outside of the womb, an abortion pill wouldn't be used. Now, there have been court cases that have convicted people of manslaughter when the mother was killed and the baby was killed as well, and the baby was in utero. But I don't think the abortion pill is used later to induce pregnancy, or that that would even be an argument. I don't know.
Well, let me just say this. The news that is being reported, now I'm looking, for example, at NBC and the reportage that they're giving to this. They say, this is a quote from the article, according to Licking County Prosecuting Attorney William Hayes, on September 18, 2019, the woman, Gillum, took 12 misoprostol tablets that she and Mull, her boyfriend, ordered from Indiana with the intention to induce labor and terminate Gillum's pregnancy. She was in her third trimester, about 29 weeks pregnant at the time. She gave birth to a male child in the bathroom in the apartment that she shared, and you know the rest of the story. So
right.
The thing is, Robert George, I mean, I'm not his apologist or anything, but I mean, I want to be fair to him.
No.
He wasn't saying that women should take this pill at a certain time or that they do take this pill at a certain time. Yeah, he's not saying that, that anybody would give a baby an abortion pill, although we know that if you did, it would kill the child. So he's just simply saying this hypothetical, if it's okay in the minds of those who are in favor of abortion, which I know that you are not, to kill the same child with the same pill before birth, then is it wrong to kill the same child with the same pill at the same time immediately after birth? So he's not even
Right.
delving into the science. He's not promoting it or proposing it. He's just saying, in this hypothetical, is it okay? You see? So maybe you're being too hard on him, because I don't see him infringing. I
Oh
don't
no,
see
I
him
like him.
trafficking in bad science or anything like that. Unless I'm missing something. I
No,
don't see that.
yeah. I like him. I just think, I mean, I know I live in Madison, Wisconsin. It's a very liberal area, although we have a solid church there, solid bishops come out of Madison. And I just feel like there's a lot of liberal people that I know that will say it doesn't matter what, it is the mother's choice. And they find a way to argue into the pro-choice box no matter what the situation is.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess I'm not a fan of that specific tweet or whatever of George's. But
help me out here.
I do see that,
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Help me out, though. Maybe you're seeing something I'm not seeing. So what is the offensive part of his tweet? I'll reread it, because some people are coming into the story.
Well, it's not offensive.
Okay, let me put it this way. What is objectionable about it? Let me read the tweet. Just give me 1 second. I'll read the tweet. Sure. I'll read the tweet so everybody knows we're on the same page. So in the first tweet, he says, okay, this couple, they take the abortion pill. Though she takes the abortion pill, the baby's born alive because the pills failed, and they provide no medical help. The child dies. Police find the corpse of the baby in a shoebox. So his second, and then he says the couple is prosecuted for manslaughter. He asks, should they be? And then in his second tweet, he says, it's a true story. Now let's imagine that when the child emerged alive, the couple simply fed him another one of the pills to finish him off. This is a hypothetical. He's not saying that people do this or that this is when you should take this pill. He's just saying, hypothetically, if they did this, is killing the child with the pills in the womb perfectly okay, but killing the same child outside the womb at the same age a heinous crime? So if maybe you're seeing something here that I'm missing, what about this tweet bothers you? What's wrong with it?
I guess it doesn't. I don't find it offensive because it's a tweet, but I guess it reminds me of the pro-choicer argument. Well, what if an 8-year-old gets pregnant? Is abortion okay then? Just the same. Like I know what actually happened. I know the case happened, but I don't. I think sometimes those extreme examples, the other side likes to use them to back us into a corner, and he makes sense, but I just kind of got the same feeling. Even though I'm totally pro-life, it wasn't my favorite. Didn't stand up and go, yeah, our side. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. By the way, I misspoke when I read that. I misread it. I said Indiana, but it's India. They order the pills from India.
Oh, okay, sure.
No, that's beside the point.
That makes sense.
Okay, well, far be it from me, Monica, to argue with you. I don't want to argue with you. You seem like a wonderful person, and I know we're on the same page.
Thank
but
you.
Yeah, so I guess for my money, I think he did a real service to raise the question. It is a good question, I think, anyway, because it leads to one of a couple possibilities. Either people are going to, if they say no, it's not okay for them to have done this to this baby after it was born, then why is it okay to do the same thing to the baby before it's born? And that's a question that those who are A-okay with abortion, they have to answer that. They have to grapple with that question and answer it somehow. I don't think it can be answered. So I see value in that question. And it is true, there are people who will try to use a conundrum. But see, the example that you gave of, well, what if an 8-year-old child gives birth to a baby? We have a good answer to that question. The answer is killing, I can't imagine that scenario, but let's say killing the innocent person who is also a victim, because that would be rape. Killing that person does nothing to alleviate the terrible situation that child is in. It just compounds it further. And another innocent victim becomes victimized. So we can be consistent and rational, and we don't deviate from our beliefs on the sanctity of human life, both 8-year-old life and unborn life. But I don't think that pro-abortion people can be consistent. Or, if they are consistent, they would have to say, yeah, it's okay. And then they're arguing for infanticide, in which case it really comes out in the open, you see.
These are the same people we're talking about, though, that argued that, they argued against the born alive that act a few years ago to protect babies that were born alive from abortion, and they were Democrats, that were very much against the bill that would protect those infants. So
Right.
I guess I don't see that like they would follow honestly any line of reasoning like that. I don't. I mean, maybe, and maybe it's just a moot point because it is just an argument out in the internet. But
Governor Northam
yeah,
of Virginia, he did go that far with it. That's one reason why
right,
he's held in
yeah,
such contempt by so many people, because he's in his very smooth voice on a radio interview. He said, well, in the case of a baby who's the abortion doesn't work, then we would make sure that the baby is comfortable, and then we would have a conversation with the mother about what to do. And that doesn't mean, well, what are we going to feed the baby or what are we going to name the baby? That means, are we going to let the baby die? That's what he's referring to.
right,
And people,
right.
they recoiled in horror, because even the most extreme abortion people typically are not willing to go there. He went there. I think it's good we're having this conversation, Monica.
Yeah, thank you for your show. I love listening to it.
Thank you. And you made it better by calling today.
Oh, thanks.
You're welcome.
Cheers.
Well, thanks for the call. Appreciate it. To the phones. Let's go to Elizabeth, who's listening in Nashville, Tennessee. Hi, Elizabeth.
Hi. I am calling in response to the girl who took issue with the tweet about the abortion pill.
Right.
I wanted to just sort of piggyback on her response, because I have a similar feeling, but just a little bit different. I just feel like the analogy that he used just doesn't hold, because I think that most people who are pro-choice are going to look at that tweet and look at the situation and say, well, she shouldn't have been taking an abortion pill at that stage of her pregnancy. And so what we need instead is better education about abortion, better access to abortion, just so that she would have been safer through that whole process. Because I think I read that the reason that the case even came to light was because she went to the hospital, I imagine because of complications from taking such a high dose of the pill. And so not only that, just because that, you don't feed the pill to the baby
Right.
at any stage. So I don't know. I just feel like I agree with her that the tweet doesn't really hold water, but just for a little bit different of a reason.
Okay. And as I said earlier, I'm not here to, I'm not here to be an apologist for Robert George. I happen to agree with him on this issue. But here again, I would simply say, okay, so let's say the person who is in favor of abortion, let's say that they say that. All right. Okay. Fair enough. So you think that not you personally, but you think that she should have had access to an abortion. She does. She does have access to an abortion. And she chose this method of abortion, the chemical abortion, the pills. And I mean, there are places where these insane pro-abortion people, they will use drones and balloons and things, and they will send these pills over the border into Poland or other places where abortion is very difficult to get. It was happening in Ireland for a while before their referendum and the change there. So they push this method of abortion, number one. And so let's just say that she should have had, and this is their thinking, not mine, that she should have gone into a clinic and she should have had the abortion. Okay, well, whatever, but she didn't do that. But the question still remains, if it's okay to use this abortion pill, 12 of them to be exact, to terminate this pregnancy, and she took it and she was about 29 weeks, so she was in the third trimester. If it's okay to kill this child with this pill at this time, before the baby is born, is it okay to kill the same child with the same pill at the same time, 60 seconds later, once the baby emerges from the birth canal? That's a really powerful question.
And I totally am on board with that line of questioning. I just think that it might be dismissed quickly because the whole thing was not
Let's
properly
role play.
executed.
Let's
Yes,
role play.
pardon that
Can you and I
horrible
role
pun,
play?
but
Okay, so I want you to,
sure.
I'll be me and you be the person. I know you're not, but let's just say that you are in favor of abortion. Okay. So
Yeah,
let's role play.
it's a
Okay.
horrible
So
feeling.
I know, isn't it? But thanks for playing along. So Elizabeth, you see the story, and the woman took the abortion pill and the pills, and the abortion was unsuccessful. The baby was born alive. So she and her boyfriend are charged with manslaughter in Ohio now because they didn't do anything to save the baby's life. So, because you're in favor of abortion, if it was okay for them to abort this baby with this pill at the age that the baby was, and if you don't like the word baby, then choose the word that you prefer. Do you agree with this criminal charge that they are guilty of manslaughter for not helping this child to live 30 or 60 seconds after the baby's born? They want it to die, and they feed it one of these abortion pills knowing that this will kill the child. Do you think that they should be guilty of manslaughter or found guilty?
I'm going to be terrible at this role play because I have no answer for that.
That's the point.
And I agree. Yes, I agree. I just feel like it would have been a little bit more effective if he had used the analogy of like the appropriate procedure for that stage of pregnancy.
Okay, how about
That's
this?
it.
Let's change it, okay? Because I want to play ball with you. Let's say that it was a surgical abortion. So let's say it's a third trimester abortion. These happen a lot. And as we know, it is performed by dismemberment. So the abortion doctor inserts certain instruments into the uterus and tears the baby apart limb from limb, crushes the skull, and then evacuates all of that from the uterus. So let's say, if that's okay, I mean, if the abortion people, and for the sake of our discussion, you're one of them, says that that's okay, then once the baby is born, let's say that the abortion attempt fails. Now the baby's born. Now the baby is there breathing, alive on the table. Is it okay to crush the baby's skull then?
Well, no, because then you have a Dr. Gosnell situation, and that's exactly my point, is that if you use the procedure that's appropriate for that stage, then it's really impossible to dismiss it.
But here's the question, though. Why is it not okay? If you can kill that same baby with and I don't know the name of the instrument, whatever it is, to crush the skull of the baby in the womb 60 seconds earlier, same baby, same instrument, same technique. 60 seconds go by, the baby comes out, and the abortion didn't work. So now you take the same instrument, same baby, same time, and you crush the skull. What has changed?
I mean, nothing. And I'm with you. Like,
I know. I put you in a tough situation. I'm sorry. But this is why
okay.
these kinds
I
of
knew what I was
questions are
getting into.
helpful, because it forces people to think it through. Otherwise, they use these thought-stopping slogans to help them avoid having to think. Oh, it's a woman's right to choose. You know, it's just a clump of cells. It's just a blob of tissue. Blah 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 blah. Those are meaningless slogans. So what we want to do, Elizabeth, is to help people stop and think about this. This is why I think these kinds of questions are useful.
Yeah. I don't know if that will ever happen in the political arena, but I think in person-to-person conversations, you're right.
That's a good point. Yeah, that's a good point. But you know, that's where we win the hearts and minds of people, is by speaking to them and being patient with them and helping them.
Right.
Please don't feel like I shut you down. I don't want you to feel that way.
No, I don't. I just was listening to her and felt like I wanted to interject, but, I had to wait 15 minutes on the line. So
well, thanks for your
patience. I might
patience.
as well speak my piece.
I'm glad you did, Elizabeth.
Thank you so much for all your work. We really appreciate it.
For more of The Patrick Madrid Show, visit relevantradio.com/Patrick.